It is estimated 1 million Australians have taken the plunge and started managing their own superannuation. While there are savings to be made, there are also plenty of pitfalls. Tonight, money man Paul Clitheroe with real-world advice on how to successfully run your funds.
Basically, there's a bit of a revolution going on. For many Australians, superannuation is becoming bigger than the family home.
So who's managing your super? A bloke in a shiny suit charging huge fees, pulling big bucks? Or could you do it yourself with your very own DIY super fund?
Self-managed super funds, they are good, they're just not for everybody.
Welcome to the super jungle. Hundreds of funds are desperately vying for your hard-earned super savings, but nearly 1 million workers have broken away with a self-managed fund. These do-it-yourselfers have got $500 billion in super, 507 billion. It makes the eyes water thinking about it. They reckon they can do it better and cheaper than the pros.
I have a self-managed super fund, yeah.
Self-managed, because I don't trust other super funds.
Just having the freedom to invest in whatever you want, basically.
My super fund is absolutely fine.
Some of the 970,000 men and women now doing it themselves, and their small funds are rocketing in numbers. But financial guru Paul Clitheroe warns it's not all milk and honey.
Unfortunately, there are some horror stories around do-it-yourself superannuation funds.
He's now written the book on setting up and running your own super fund, starting with why it's become so popular.
I really think we Australians have got this thing about wanting to control our money. And I admire this idea. And many Australians are saying, you know, maybe I can do as good a job as a big institution can do, and maybe I can do it a lot more cheaply.
Now, everyone's situation is different, but let's crunch some numbers based on a hypothetical superannuation balance of $300,000. Don't worry if you're young and your balance is much less. One day you'll have that amount, probably much more. Fees have come down a lot in the last couple of years, but you're probably still being slugged around 1% a year. That's $3,000 out of your super earnings every year. Now, if you set up a DIY fund and switch that money across to it, there's a rude shock.
You'll probably pay a couple of $1,000s to set your fund up, $2,000 to $3,000 most likely. You're probably paying between $1,000 and $2,000 a year in accounting fees and audit fees. So if we've got a first year cost, let's round it out to $4,000 to $5,000.
But after the first year, the cost of your own fund is just the auditing and accounting fees, say $1,500, plus some small incidentals like trading costs. So compared to the managed fund, you're actually $1,500 a year better off. Now that is a huge difference.
Fees make a big difference to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars, often $50,000 or $100,000 over a lifetime of work.
That could be the difference between a comfortable retirement and a difficult one. And then the fun part, the choices you can make to invest your super where you want.
And you do need to think about, will I buy an investment property? Will I buy shares? Will I buy interest-bearing securities?
Look, if you don't understand finance, you really are going to struggle.
Jeff Bresnahan started online site Super Ratings to compare all the funds out there. He believes the conventional funds are now more than ever the best way to go because they're much safer than self-managed funds.
The whole industry is ripe for rip-offs, and it's like bees to a honeypot. You've got people spruiking property trusts, you've got people spruiking 8% interest for 5 years. You know, it's too good to be true, and it will be. At least in mainstream superannuation funds, if someone acts fraudulently and steals your money off you, other super funds kick in and reimburse your money.
Paul Clitheroe agrees that unless you have that $200,000 to $300,000 in super already and go in with your eyes wide open, educate yourself financially and stick to the rules, a DIY fund could be a bad move.
The reality is a low-cost, well-performing superannuation fund, the sort of fund where your money's going now, is very likely to be the right place. In 3 decades' time, many Australians are going to have $300,000 in superannuation. And for me, that's the trigger point for thinking about, would I consider a do-it-yourself superannuation fund? But it's not until that day.
Back at the beach, the do-it-yourselfers seem quietly confident.
I'm very happy with it. It gives me lots of flexibility, opportunities to move in and out of different market segments when the markets move.
Worth remembering the tax department, which oversees self-managed super, is looking at all their investments very closely, so they can't invest in a holiday house for themselves or a flash car to drive to work or anything else that's frivolous. But if you do join the rush to DIY super, you can have some serious fun.
It's a revolution that whether a do-it-yourself superannuation fund is right or not for you, the principles every Australian in super should understand.
You've got to be careful. It's a very good feeling, they say, to control your own financial destiny, but only if it works. So you'll find much more information on Paul's retirement tips on our website.